I head to the next table where we've got 5-4 suited in the big blind as soon as I sit down. The player in middle position limps in with the short stack, the cutoff raises to 25. The button calls, I call for 20 more, the middle position player calls as well. We're going 4 ways to the flop out of position. It comes 4-4 deuce rainbow. We've got trips immediately at this new location. Unfortunately, everyone checks. The turn's the 3 of diamonds, giving us an open-ended straight draw to go along with our 3 fours. We can't allow this to check through again. I bet 75 for value. The middle position player is contemplating what to do. It's a little scary for us because he only limp called the raise pre-flop. A lot of people tend to take this line with small pocket pairs or small suited connecting hands, so on a paired board with all low cards, it's very possible that this opponent could already have a full house or a straight. He calls. It's also possible that he just has something like pocket fives or maybe a diamond flush draw. The initial pre-flop raiser calls in the cutoff. The button calls as well. After no one showed interest on the flop, all 3 of our opponents are willing to call a larger size turn bet. We may not be best. The river is the 4 of diamonds, giving us quad 4s in an incredible spot. I bet 400, which will probably look like a wild bluff because our line is kind of ridiculous. We didn't 3-bet pre-flop, so we'll rarely have pocket pairs like 10s or better. We bet on the turn, indicating that we had a straight, a small full house, or trip 4s. With a third 4 out there, our hands like pocket 3s and pocket deuces get counterfeited, and a straight is more worthless than an NFT collection. The big bet looks like I've got exactly quads or complete air. The middle position player only has 225 in his stack. He's getting over 40% off the retail price. That's a bargain that he can't turn down. He calls, the cutoff folds quickly. The action's on the button. He only has 335, so he'd be getting a discount as well. The button saw the middle position player struggling to decide whether or not to call, so maybe the middle position opponent doesn't have much, and it's pretty unlikely that I'm going to river quads. It's very possible the button talks himself into looking us up.
Well, I came to play. I call.
Quads.
Nice.
We get called by the middle position player's 6-5 of hearts, which was a turn straight. I've got some NFTs to sell that guy. And then we also get called by the button's pocket 8s and a 3-way all-in while we've got the nuts. I don't think that I've ever stacked multiple players with quads before. To the button's credit, he takes the loss better than anyone I've ever seen.
You come to Savannah, dinner's on me.
Oh, nice, man. You do? Wow. Thank you, man.
It's awesome to play these cash game events and be around people with such good attitudes, even when they get stacked. If I'm ever in Savannah, which is on my list of places to visit, I'll definitely check out Chizito's Latin Cuisine to redeem the dinner for 2. In the meantime, I'm glad to finally make a strong hand and get paid off. This win gets us all the way out of the hole. We're up over 600. It's nice to have some profit to work with. Next I've got 5-4 hearts on the button. The cutoff raises to 30. This is the dude who got me in the previous hand. Let's go ahead and take a look at what Upswing says you should do with 5-4 suited in this situation. Okay, it says that we should be folding or raising from the button when the cutoff opens. These pre-flop charts are good and they're helpful, but they're not perfect. They don't account for every component. For instance, in this hand, we're out for revenge, which is not factored into Upswing's charts at all. You can make the argument that you're supposed to 3-bet with it when you want revenge. Sure, but it still leaves out a lot of other hands you should be playing. I'm taking it upon myself to make my own chart when you're getting at least 1-to-1 against someone who deserves punishment. Everything in yellow is a hand that you'll be minimally calling with. It's a very wide range. In fact, the only hand that we fold is 5 deuce offsuit. Turns out that it just doesn't play that well. Now you might be thinking, why do we play 4 deuce offsuit then? And that's a good question, but the problems we have with 4 deuce and 3 deuce are offset by how much more enjoyable it is to get revenge and win with a hand that sucks that badly. This is all stuff that's corroborated by solvers. Anyway, I call, the small blind calls, the big blind also calls. We go 4 ways to the flop. In position, it comes ace-10-4 with 2 hearts. We have bottom pair with a flush draw and backdoor straight draw. Checks to me, I bet 70. I'm happy to take down the pot now or make it bigger in case I win. Small blind and big blind fold. The nemesis and the cutoff calls. We're down to heads up. The turn is the 9 of spades. The cutoff checks. I slow down and check back to make sure that I can see the river. The dealer puts out the king of hearts. We make the baby flush. The cutoff checks. I'm not sure what type of hand he's going to be showing up with. Could be either a 10 of some sort or maybe a weak ace. All I know is he has too many Bradley dollars and I want to get as many back as possible. I bet 200 for value. The player considers his options for a while, then lays it down. I would have preferred a call. Perhaps I should have bet smaller. At least we win and we aren't stuck too much. Here we've got 5-4 of diamonds on the button. It's not my favorite suit right now. The straddle's on. Under the gun +1 raises to 35. Under the gun +2 calls. I make the loose call. The small blind calls, we're going 4 ways to the flop. The problem for me this session is that I haven't been able to complete any of my draws on the turn or river. That's why I decided to just flop the flush this hand instead. It's all diamonds, we've got the straight flush redraw. The small blind under the gun +1 check, under the gun +2 bet 75. Typically with a flopped flush, especially a lower one, it's important to fast play it, but since we can still improve with certain diamonds coming out, I'm not all that inclined to make a move right now. I call with plans to make a move on the turn. The small blind under the gun +1 fold, it's down to heads up. The turn is the 7 of hearts, pairs the board, not exactly what I wanted to see, not the end of the world though. Under the gun +2 checks, he's not going to get a free card, I bet 150 for value. The opponent would like to see at least one more card, and the price seems fair enough, he makes the call. It's a pretty large pot now for this game. The river is the king of spades, it's a nice blank on this board. We're going to be going for value again once the action's on us. The opponent slightly moves his hand, so I'm not sure if he checked or not.
Check.
This is a weird situation. I fused some words together and didn't enunciate my question very well. The opponent thought I just said check, perhaps acting out of turn because when he says check, he tables pocket jacks without a diamond.
Oh, no, I didn't check.
Oh,
I said, did you check?
oh, you said check.
I said, did you check? I thought I saw your hand go like this, and I said, did you check? It doesn't matter. I mean, I have the winner, but yeah.
After there was some confusion, it didn't feel right to bet for value, especially at a meetup game. It's a little brutal that this type of thing happens when I finally make a flush, but at least we still win a significant pot. Here we've got 5-4 suited in the big blind with the straddle on. Andrew's first to act, he raises to 50 from under the gun +1. 5-4 suited is just outside my typical calling range. Time is running out though, we've been playing for over 6 hours, the event was supposed to end an hour ago. I'm in the mood to play, I call, under the gun calls as well, we're going 3 ways to the flop, it comes 10-7-3 with 2 hearts and a club, we've got a gutter ball and a backdoor flush draw that we're looking to put in the check raise with. Instead, all players check. The turn is the king of diamonds, which isn't good for our range, but all players check again. The river is the 6 of diamonds, giving us the straight, it's the second nuts, we'll be exactly even on the session if no other opponents put in an extra $1 and we win. We want to do better than even though. I bet 250, it's over a pot-sized bet. Sure, it's a little greedy, sometimes it's just fun to swing as hard as we can, every once in a while we'll hit a home run. Under the gun, shockingly min raises to 500. What could he possibly have? Andrew folds, under the gun has 1500 total, he could maybe have 9-8 for the one hand that beats me, but calling in this situation seems too safe. The opponent might be raising us with 2 pair hands that he thinks could be best, or maybe a set that he could possibly call a shove with. If he happens to have the one hand that has us beat, he deserves a double up. I jam for 1500 effective, and I'm thrilled that we don't get a snap call. The drama's gone, we made the right decision to rip it in to hopefully get value out of a set or 2 pair. No matter what, we're about to land in Profitville after taking one of the longest routes to get there. The opponent can't get away from whatever he's got. He makes the call, we show him the straight, all of a sudden we're up 4 figures after a long day of being down 4 figures for most of it. Except the opponent has the same hand as us. We have an incredibly disappointing chop, we split a tiny bit of Andrew's money, but we're still slightly down. That's when we pick up 5-4 suited on the button, I open to 60. Small blind, who was the opponent in the last hand, 3 bets at 200. I call, we're heads up, the flop comes 9-8-5 with 2 clubs, we have bottom pair, no backdoor draws. Ordinarily, I wouldn't put it past a player in the small blind 3-bet pre-flop with a hand like pocket 9s or 8s, but I was in the same situation earlier with the opponent when I opened on the button and the small blind just flatted with pocket 8s. I imagine he'd do the same thing with pocket 9s. This makes me think it's way more likely that the small blind will usually only have 1 pair here at best. Meanwhile, I can have a straight, all the sets, and 2 pair hands. It's a much better flop for my range. The small blind leads for 200. I might have the best hand, and I can potentially turn my hand into a bluff down the line. I call. We see the turn, it's the deuce of diamonds. Small blind bets again, he makes it 550. I feel like the small blind may be trying to push me off a hand with nothing, but even if we're currently in the lead, the player will almost certainly have at least 6 outs. He could have 15 or more. My image is great at the moment. I've won after showing down several strong hands in the last half hour. I just slow played a set that turned into quads against the same opponent when the flop was similar, and I'm not exactly sure what the small blind's trying to represent. All those factors combined make me feel like it's the right time to pull the trigger on a big bluff. I go for it, I announce a bet of 1500. This is usually when the nerves kick in and the heart starts racing, but not this time. Before I can even get the chips out there, the small blind snap folds, our read on the situation works out, we get a huge bluff through, and we win our biggest pot of the night. That gets us the rest of the way out of the hole. We actually have a solid profit now. 2.5 hours into the session, we've got 5-4 suited in the big blind. The player under the gun raises to 30. The small blind calls. I'm getting a price I like with a hand that has plenty of potential. We call for 20 more, closing the action. There are 3 of us seeing the flop. The dealer puts out 7-5-3 with 2 clubs and a spade. We've got middle pair, a gutter, and a backdoor flush draw. Small blind checks. I check. Under the gun bets 50. This won't be a great flop for his under the gun opening range. It's great for our big blind calling range though. We can have a straight, all the sets, and some 2-pair hands. Small blind calls. Calling and raising are both good options. Raising allows us to win it right now though. I bump it up to 220. The under the gun player isn't ready to jump ship just yet. He calls for 170 more. The small blind isn't feeling it. He folds. It's down to heads up. It's tough to know exactly what the opponent has. I'm guessing a flush draw or an overpair. The turn is the 5 of diamonds, giving us trips. A better turn couldn't have been dealt. That's one of the benefits of check raising as a bluff. Sometimes you get there. The new goal is to extract as much value as possible. I bet 430. It's a healthy sizing. Under the gun calls. I still put him on the same type of hands, but I hope that he has an overpair more than a flush draw because the river is the 8 of hearts. It's another card that's better for my range, although in reality, it doesn't change much unless the opponent somehow has pocket 8s. Under the gun only has 800 left in his stack. I consider checking to induce a bluff from a missed club draw, but it'll get checked back too regularly. I jam to get calls from premium pocket pairs or a non-believer. Under the gun immediately folds. He's flustered and snap picks up. We're having a great day with everything working out about as well as possible. It's another big pot that we get to rake in. We're up almost 2,700 on the session.